Anger, dissatisfaction, and vexation filled the air as many Nigerians have shared their reactions, which of course has been mostly negative, to the supplementary budget proposal where some 6.9 billion naira is earmarked for the procurement of vehicles for the State House and 1.5 billion naira allocated for new cars for the office of the First Lady, among other frivolous items. President Bola Tinubu has presented a 2.176 trillion naira 2023 supplementary budget proposal to the House of Representatives.
Well, in the breakdown of the budget, the Ministry of Defense received the highest allocation of 476.543 billion naira. Ministry of Works was allocated 300 billion naira, and the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security got 200 billion naira. Renovation of the residential quarters of Mr. President, 4 billion naira. Renovation of Dodan Barracks, the official residence of Mr. President, also got 4 billion naira. Renovation of the official quarters of the Vice President in Lagos got 3 billion naira. Construction of an office complex in Aso Rock got 4 billion naira. Amidst of all of this, Nigerians are asking why there is a budget of 5.5 billion for presidential yacht, while the education sector has just 5 billion naira for the proposed student loan.
Well, there of course have been mixed reactions concerning this, and experts have called for a clampdown on frivolous spending and projects that can wait while the major needs of the citizens are catered for. Joining us to look into this is Segun Shokwiton. He's a principal partner, Woodridge and Scott Consulting. Good morning, Mr. Shokwiton. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Olive. Thanks for having me.
All right. Your immediate reactions to the supplementary budget. Social media is full of reactions, mostly negative, with people criticizing some of the items that have been prioritized. They're stating that the needs and the welfare of the average Nigerians or the Nigerians at large have not been prioritized. But I'd like to get your immediate reaction before we go into the details of what the budget provides for.
Well, in addition to this, the general body language, if I may use that expression, of this administration and maybe even this president so far has been very clearly one that is not particularly bothered about public opinion with regards to the actions that they're taking. And this is just another one of the many things that we've seen, in this last 5 months that suggests this very strongly. So it would appear as though the president is not really too worried about what people think, because if he were, then he wouldn't be budgeting, we wouldn't be seeing some of those items on the budget. Some have argued that this budget is not necessarily a new budget, and those items have been there. They predate his administration, but the previous administration did not go ahead to remove subsidies. They were very careful to shift the burden and the weight of that decision to him, and for obvious reasons, because we can now see the consequences of that decision. So you can't, on the one hand, take subsidies out of the budget. Yes, the subsidies were eating up about 6 trillion, between 4 to 6 trillion, depending on which year you're looking at annually. And then, but by the same token, we'll send a supplementary budget of almost 3 trillion naira for items including a yacht, additional luxury vehicles, so clearly this is not good for the optics. It's not good. It's not good for messaging and signaling, even to the business communities. And I think that sometimes our politicians miss this point. Investors look at these things, and it's important to them that there is a synergy and there is alignment in the things that an administration or a government is saying and the things that they're doing, because it then tells them that they can trust that government and trust that the decisions of that government will favor them as they do their businesses in that country. So this is not good at all, whichever way you look at it.
Well, you're not just the only one saying it's not good at all. Other economists have also joined their voices in saying that this is a completely wrong path to take. One of the questions many persons are asking is this: 1.5 billion naira for the office of the First Lady. Do we have that in the federal constitution? Is there anything like the office of the First Lady? And why should 1.5 billion naira be allocated to that office?
Well, clearly, there's no such office. It's not a constitutional thing. It's a reality. It's a fact. the fact of the matter is that the president has a wife, and the wife of any president in any country is the first lady of that country. But then, and we must also recognize that by virtue of being the wife of the president, there are certain official attachments that will go with her, whether there is an official office or not. So she would have aides, she would have assistants. It's almost like if my wife has, she would have to have a housemaid, and all of that, maybe a driver, so those things would naturally be attached to the person of the wife of the president. Now, to say that there's an office of the first lady is a different thing. 1.5 billion to take care of the wife of the president in a country where, exchange rate is trending well above 1,000 naira to the dollar. Petrol is selling at well above 600, 700 naira in different parts of the country. It just smacks of insensitivity. You can take care of the wife of the president without spending billions of naira that desperately needed to make the economy better. The our budget is not big enough. We're under budgeting grossly. Our budget is one of the lowest in the world. The countries that have lower budget per capita than Nigeria are countries that are at war. Democratic Republic of Congo, Syria, Afghanistan, any other country that is serious about taking their people forward, they budget more than Nigeria does. And yet, in spite of that, we're seeing the country budget for the office of the First Lady, an office that doesn't exist, and budgeting for yachts and luxury vehicles. It's quite unfortunate.
Right. Let's look into the meat of, some of the highlights of what this budget provides for. And let's share with you a breakdown of some of the things, and then we'll come to our next question. Now, provisions for this supplementary budgets, we see here 605 billion naira allocated to sustain and accelerate gains in security, supporting security agencies, 300 billion naira for bridge repairs, including Eco and Third Mainland bridges, and the construction, rehabilitation, and maintenance of roads nationwide. 210 billion naira set aside to pay 35,000 naira each to about 1.5 million federal government employees for September through December 2023, following negotiations with the Nigeria Labour Congress. There's also more. We have 400 billion naira allocated for cash transfer payments, continuing a program that provides 25,000 naira to 15 million households. An additional month of funding was approved by the federal government, totaling 100 billion naira. 200 billion for seed, agricultural input, supplies, and infrastructure to support increased production. 100 billion for urgent and immediate capital expenditure infrastructure works. These are some of the provisions here. We have also 18 billion naira provided for the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct elections in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo. 5.5 billion naira for the funding of the Students' Loans Board, beginning loan disbursement in January 2024. 8 billion naira for the takeoff grant of new ministries, and 200 billion naira to address urgent requests from various parts of the country. I've also seen some others here that have been highlighted, and quite interestingly, it says computerization and digitalization of State House for 200 million naira, construction of office complex within the State House for 1 billion naira. In fact, there are a lot of things to break down. I have a twofold question. One would be, we've seen a lot of things that have gone wrong with this budget. And interestingly, this budget has passed the second reading. What does that say of our assembly? What does that say, of the people who we have put in place to review these bills, or to review this, the budgets? What does it say of the government's interest, when it comes to the people? And the second question would be that, is there any maybe possibility that in the coming years, because we've always talked, we've had budget conversations year in, year out. So is there any possibility that, did they even review this budget at all? Or are we just doing a copy and paste budget? And is there maybe any strength to, or any positive sides to look at in this budget? So I think I've asked you 2 or 3 questions in one. But let's start with the first one. What does it say about, those who we've put to, in office to review the budget and the government's heart towards the people?
And for me, because I'm a business person, I'm a consultant, I would always look at this from how it's impacting, the economy and the welfare and the livelihoods of people. And I tell you that, again, the signaling and the optics, the messaging is terrible. The fact that you obviously have a National Assembly that constitutionally is mandated to serve as a check to the executive, so the legislative arm of government is supposed to be the checks and balances arm on behalf of the people to curtail the excesses of the government, the executive arm, and perhaps to provide oversight functions on behalf of the people. What we are seeing with this budget is the exact opposite. It would appear as though the National Assembly is an appendage of the executive. It would appear as though they're basically just there to serve the whims of the president. And this is terrible from a business perspective. It's, look, on the one hand, Nigeria says we're looking for a way to strengthen our Naira, which obviously would include bringing investments into the country. And on the other hand, you have this drama, I almost want to say comedy, that we're watching. How can you fast track the reading of the supplementary budget, on the same sitting of the National Assembly and you get through a second reading? Why? What happened to scrutinizing those elements? Why were questions not asked by these National Assembly members regarding these items that you're pointing out? Why isn't somebody saying, excuse me, why would it cost 2 billion naira to computerize, 200 million to computerize an office? What sort of digitalization and computerization is that? Why isn't somebody asking that
Maybe
question
there are solar
on
panels.
behalf of the people? Solar panels, renovation. There is a 4 billion for provision of an office complex within the State House, within Aso Rock. I mean, this is shocking. It's shocking. To say shocking is even an underestimation. And it's clear that this National Assembly will not provide any oversight, and this is not good for the country and for its ability to pull itself out of the economic problems that it's facing.
Right.
The budgeting process, the other part of your question, the budgeting process, over the years, we have said it repeatedly that these budgets are clearly cut and paste. You can literally take the budget of 5 consecutive years and lay them side by side physically, print it out, lay them side by side physically on your table, and you'll find identical line items, identical, including things like reconstruction of the fence of the federal. There's a particular school, I think Odogolu, Federal Government College. The reconstruction of their fence was repeatedly maintained in our budget for 3 years.
That's evidence
So
to show that what we're
yeah.
doing is really copy and paste, and they've been criticized.
It's clearly a copy and paste.
We've unfortunately run out of time.
I mean, Mr. Shogito.
In 10 seconds, the last part was, is there any positive? On a scale of 1 to 10, is there any positive? And if there is, how would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 in 30 seconds?
On a scale of 1 to 10, there are clearly things that need to be addressed that, the supplementary budget has brought to forward, security, construction of bridges, and all of that. These things are necessary. Infrastructure development is critical for economic growth, so those things are good, but it is not enough, clearly.
Okay.
It's not enough. We need to do more.
All right. Okay, Mr. Shogito, time will fail us if we need to continue, but you know what? We'll try and bring you back so we can take some time to dissect. It's a developing conversation, and we know this will still be in the news. Thank you so much for your time, by the way.
Thanks for having me.